Welcome back to Revelatorium, the podcast that comes around once a month, which is just about as often as I have to put myself on timeout. And there are a couple different kinds of timeouts, right? There's like the kids' punishment type of timeout where it's like they have done something wrong, they've thrown a tantrum, and they need to be put in isolation, which now that I'm saying that does have echoes of punitive measures you'd find in a carceral system. I'm not saying putting a kid in their room alone is akin to prison, but where did that methodology come from? Like, it's the same kind of thing as like my high school was designed by the same like architect or designer that did prisons. Like, sometimes these things are more connected than you would even know. And it's not that kind of timeout. I don't think I've done something necessarily wrong. Have I been doing something extremely life-affirming but also destructive? Yeah. Sometimes those things are coupled. But it's more so the kind of timeout that, like, I remember when I was playing basketball, which, yes, I was a junior varsity athlete for 2 years. And huge reveal, I literally wrote my college, I can't believe I'm saying this right now. I literally wrote my college essay, like the Common App essay. First of all, if you have been watching my YouTube videos since I was talking about Common App essays, like, I need you to make some noise in the comments because you've come so far. Welcome to disillusionment. Basically, in my Common App essay, I wrote about the plight of being on the A team. And okay, the whole reason I wanted to play basketball, by the way, everyone's always like, oh, you're tall. I'm 5'10". They're like, oh, you're tall. That's why you played basketball. I was like, yes, that's how I got on the team. But why I played basketball was to hang out with basketball lesbians. Like, don't get that twisted. Those are some of the best hangs you'll have in your life. Much love to rugby lesbians as well. Much love to all lesbians. This is a very pro-lesbian podcast. I can't imagine ever listening to one that wasn't. And in fact, something that I say on stage in my stand-up is if I'm ever anywhere and there are not two lesbians in the room, it's a problem. Because one time I was walking by a UPS and I watched two lesbians leave. And at the same instance, two lesbians went in and I felt my body unclench and my spirit sort of unfurl. And I let out this like very visceral just sigh because I was so relieved to know that UPS was at equilibrium. Equilibrium to me is like minimum two lesbians in any room. And if you go somewhere and there's not a couple lesbians, like, you should be analyzing maybe why. That is the extent that I revere lesbians. I'm like, so that's why I was playing junior varsity. No, I was trying to get on basketball to hang out with them, which worked quite well. And then I got on the B team in 8th grade. And so then I was like, oh, damn, I can't hang out with my friends. For some reason, like, and here's where I get into like essentialism, but I was like, why were all the lesbians on the A team and there were no lesbians on the B team? The B team was like puny, like straight girls, and like there was randomly one art hoe on there. And then, or like, she wasn't an art hoe at the time, but like that was her destiny. And then the A team was like all of the swaggy, amazing basketball lesbians. It wasn't like all lesbians, but you know. Anyway, I have always known who my people are. I think I've always been very discerning, or like I have a good awareness of the kind of people that are my kin, or like are not my kin, my ilk, another 3-letter relational word. But anyway, I can't tell you how powerful it feels to say the word relational in these classes, even though people in the comedy scene here keep telling me that I look like David Foster Wallace. I just refuse to see that as anything but a compliment. And I have not read Infinite Jest. I have not consumed. I just know the memes. But I'm like, I think that is someone who is revered, and I do not mind being compared to that person. Add that to the goddamn list of like 37 different people that I've been told that I look like. And now I'm just doing my stand-up material. Like, I gotta go on tour. I can't remember if I mentioned it when I first talked about this new to me chair that I've been sitting in. Obviously, this is some from a decade that starts with 7, but Sometimes something has so much swag that you're like, that has to be from the 70s. Like that has to be one of the most, I mean, I think we'll talk about swag later in the episode. That's another thing that I've been revering. And that also connects back to basketball lesbians because those are some of the swaggiest people. I saw this one video. I don't remember which, I don't remember if it was like the Olympic women's basketball team or like the WNBA, like a team. I don't remember who it was, but it was just like shots of their street style, like as they walked into the gym, or maybe it was out of like the stadium after they played their game. But I was like, all of their outfits, I was like, why are they studying New York Fashion Week on the side? Like everyone was so like literate. I was like, everyone had such a like a chic sense of style. I was just really enamored. I was like, of course. So anyway, 70s is the decade I view to have the most swag, but I think like that is a beautiful question to ask somebody is which decade do they think people had the most swag? Because to me, like, I wouldn't even say 90s was super swaggy. I think it was kind of like, it's a different word than swag. It's something else, but like the 70s, I'm like, that was swaggy. For some people, maybe it's the 80s, maybe it's the 2000s. But anyway, this chair, 70s swag is why I own it. But when I picked up the chair, the people, did I talk about this? When I picked up the chair, the people that sold it to me off Facebook Marketplace took a photo of me because it was sitting at a bus stop. And I literally was making a joke about how it would be so funny if Seattle bus stops installed 70s Danish art, like furniture. Like that is what Seattle would do. Like I'm pissed that the city, like obviously these are not functional chairs for a city that is, you know, lightly soggy all the time. But anyway, when I posted that photo on Twitter, somebody replied. The only reply I got was like, is that Kamala Harris's stepdaughter? And I was like, you got me there. Because I had been referred or compared to Ella Emhoff before, but I'd never really like checked her out. I just like knew of her existence in the milieu, you know, in the zeitgeist, but I wasn't really sure where to place her. So I went on her Instagram, which is obviously famed, amazing place to get to know who someone is. One of the best ways you can get to know someone is to spend a lot of time on their Instagram. Like it is just, you know what, maybe it's the most efficient way to, like maybe getting to know someone off their Instagram presence is like, it's not direct, but it's efficient. Getting to know somebody without any of that is just like slow and divine. Like getting to know somebody is one of the most luxurious processes if you let it unfold and you don't rush it, because it's like, what am I doing here? What am I doing here? And I recorded an alternate intro where I was basically talking about how like the reason I need to put myself on the timeout is because I keep going too hard. Like I keep pushing myself too hard and then I have to pull myself back. It's like very dialectical. I'm like, I just can't find the middle. And it's just, I'm oscillating between like restriction and binging basically. And I had never known that those two words weren't exclusive to like disordered eating, but you can do that for your crushes. And like, I think, or just, and I'm using crushes in the way that like, basically my definition of a crush, if you have a definition of a crush, leave it in the comments. Today is an interactive episode, I guess. I keep wanting you guys, even more than you've already submitted your revelations and your, you know, monthly notes. I want you to comment your definition of a crush. Like, how do you know when you have a crush on somebody? For me, the best heuristic is like, is their name just coming out of my mouth all of the time? Like, am I just finding ways to bring them up? I just love saying their name. It falls out so easily. And that means that sometimes my crushes are my friends. It's just like I'm really sweet on them. I don't know. Anyway, we've talked about my romanticism enough. I think you've gotten the gist. And with romanticism, that's about all you can get because it's so ethereal and cloudy and it's not really something sleek that you can hold. Anyway, you can do restriction and binging with like crushes. And I feel like when you're getting to know somebody off of their Instagram and just like doing a deep dive and like hitting pan on their feed, like on their Instagram feed, that feels like binging. And then if I don't let myself be curious and like look into them at all, that feels like restriction. But there's also restriction and binging that I experience with my social life, where it just feels so good to like really flare out and party and see people and hang and enjoy the good company of the people I've surrounded myself with. Like I tend to just like do so much of that. And then right now I'm on the down, I'm pulling myself down swing because I'm like swinging. You know, when you were a kid on the swings and you're like, what if I swang so hard it like literally went around the pole, and then it's like, ching, ching, ching. That's what I'm trying to prevent myself from doing. I'm like swinging so high right now. Like I'm just like huge, by the way, literally obsessed with swinging. And if there is a swing set somewhere, I will take advantage. Not all the time, but especially when the ambiance is right, when the swing has that right woodsy, maybe beautiful view, big open sky, something, I'll give it a go. Because like the endorphins you can get from swinging, so pure. It's like so pure. It's like truly, I don't know if human beings got to, like, what were they swinging on before we invented swings? I know vines in the jungle, but like, is that real? Is that real? Has anyone ever done that? Are those structurally sound? Can those hold my body weight? I don't know, but that's a new goal of mine. I've definitely done like rope swing. So I guess as long as we had rope. As soon as we had rope, we definitely had swings. But prior to that, I don't know. It feels when you're on a swing, it's in between earthly, like it's like in between earthly and heavenly. It's like you're somewhere in the midst of that. Anyway, it feels like I'm swinging so high right now in my social life that I might just go around the bar, and I don't want to see that happen. That's what I would probably equivalate to crashing out. I'm like, I don't want to crash out, so I try to like pull myself back from the edge because my body will tell me that I have gone too far before my mind will. Like I got sick early last month because I just had so many subsequent days of like real poor sleep hygiene, like sleep deprivation. And then, you know, my immune system just suffered. And then I just full-time binged healing where I was like, I am going to bed so early. Like every day I was like, I'm going to be reading, I'm going to be drinking tea, I'm going to be drinking water, I'm going to blow my nose. I'm just going to like take all the echinacea and all of the Chinese herbs and all of the different things that I concoct, you know, elderberry syrup, whatever natural food store may have you, I'm downing it because can't hurt. And I got better. And that was really nice. But I was like, I don't want to see myself get sick again. And so right now I'm putting myself on timeout. And I never got to explain the basketball reference of it all because I got too overwhelmingly obsessed with basketball lesbians. So that's this fucking podcast. Welcome to Revelatorium. Sometimes it goes whence it came. That's basically the tagline of the podcast. Sometimes. And actually, I would say pretty often I find it again. But the college essay was about, if you remember 18 minutes ago when I was talking about the college essay, my college essay, my Common App essay was about how I was on the A team in 7th grade and then the B team in 8th grade. And then I was like, I need to get back on the JV team because I was like, that's how I spend time with these people and we get tight. And that's literally exactly right. Like I've always understood that like friendship requires a certain amount of like proximity to find companionship. For someone to actually be your companion, they have to like walk alongside you. It's not like you just like coordinating these, you know, like out of the way things. You know, it's like someone should really be, you know, intertwined with you. And so I was like, oh, I need to be seeing these people for practice every day and we're going to tournaments and stuff. And like, that's how that's going to work. And so I was like, I literally tried so hard that summer. My mom signed me up for so many basketball camps. And I honestly, like, I never wanted to touch the ball. Like people passing the ball, I'm handing it right off. Slipping through my fingers every time. I wanted to sit on the bench and I wanted to cheer for my friends because I obviously loved them so much. And I love to cheer. Like that, I think however many podcast episodes ago, I realized like I enjoy being a champion of other people, like being a cheerleader. Like I really like to encourage. Anybody else like to encourage their loved ones? Again, it's feeling like I'm saying platitudes, but then again, I am meeting people who like to disparage their loved ones and like to put their loved ones down and are very antagonistic in their relationships. And I do find that that's something that is born out of the world of boy socialization. And then it kind of filters through the world. I don't know why we're having boys socialize to just like beat each other up. But I know that like in any like predominantly male space I've been in, that's the way that we interact. And then now I basically have like zero, like very few to zero. It oscillates, straight male friends, because I'm mostly around like women, queer people, trans, non-binary people. And so I'm not feeling that like pattern anymore. And then I'll dip briefly back into like a boy space and I'm like, oh damn, I like haven't felt that like way that we're socializing in so long. But at one point in my life, it was really normal to me because being in the band, I was a trumpet player and I was that like 85% of the time I was like one of the only girl in the whole trumpet section, if not one of the only girls. So I was just used to that. Anyway, not everybody likes to encourage their friends, I guess. Some people like to put each other down, which I'm like, I don't know why we have time for that when the world's putting us down enough. Like, I just don't know why you'd want to spend your free time doing that. Like, I understand. And that's where I just sound like closed-minded. Clearly, I've just come up against an incident recently with that. And so I'm just triggered. But, which like that word got a lot of play like 20, maybe 18 to like 2021. And now I feel like it's sort of fallen out of fashion. But now I can really recognize that I'm like, there are a few choice times in my life where something just touches on a sore spot. And I'm like, that action wasn't even that bad. It's just already touching a bruise. And so it aches a little bit more, you know? But yeah, I totally understand that like people, maybe there's trauma underlying that pattern of treating each other. But I do feel like you can turn it around and it doesn't have to be like that. And that's what I enjoy about cheerleading. Okay, I'm going to get us a little bit more linear with the rest of this episode because I'm actually getting tired of picking up all of the odds and ends of my ruminations. So finishing off on the basketball tale, because I never wanted to touch the ball, I had to sign up for all these camps. But for whatever reason, the camps worked because I got back on the team, like the JV team in 9th and 10th grade. And then I was like, actually, I don't need to be on basketball anymore to have these people be my friends because we had enough time together. We solidified that shit. I was like, I'm good to go. Let me go back to music. It was amazing to sub in here. I needed to have these basketball lesbians in my life, and now they're here, and I can go back to the music room and hit the gong and say Hail Satan or whatever I know that's what I was doing. It's not whatever I was doing. I know that's what I was doing. So the kind of the reason I brought up basketball in the first place was because the kind of timeout that I have to put myself on after all of these nearly hypomanic weeks of just like going, is the type of timeout a coach would do, not when you genuinely needed to be like, okay, let's regroup, reassess our strategy, like change the plays. There was a couple times where the coach would just call a timeout because they were like, you guys need to rest. Like you've just been running back and forth across this court for like so long and we have a couple timeouts banked. So like, let's just use it. You guys are doing great. There's nothing going wrong. Like we want you to keep doing. So here's a little break. And I was like, oh, that's that's very effective. But why can I take it when the coach calls it? But like I have to coach myself now. Like I am realizing that I'm like, I need to call a timeout. And what that effectively looks like is I go on my Google Calendar and I block off as many weeknights and as many nights basically as possible. And I just say, stay home. Like tonight was a big stay home. Yesterday was a stay home. I did dip out, but I think that's only right given that it was the lunar eclipse and it was a blood moon and the city was so elated that night. People were out. People were jumping in the lake, you know, skinny dipping in the dark, cold plunge. I walked home And a guy was so up good, he literally dapped me up in the street. I was like, what is going on? He was just like, I just thought you were pretty and I want to dap you up. And I was like, for sure. Like literally for sure. Like I was like, that's super flattering. Thank you. Like, I literally just like, thank you. Like another guy today, he was swaggy. He was the kind of swaggy I aspire to be. That is one of my revelations from this month. Maybe we should actually get a little further down the court. Love making basketball metaphors. I'm like, the beginning of the podcast is like the tip off, and now we're dribbling. Love to provide a visual for my podcast. It would be so cute to actually doodle like a little animation, overlay it. I have a lot of creative ideas, don't have the time to execute it, and that's why I have to put myself on timeout. Like this podcast literally would not happen if I didn't put myself on timeout. But it's easier for me to like listen to, or not, it wasn't easier for me to listen to my coach. I guess I was inspired and I'm like, I need to coach myself and tell myself to like literally play defense. Like if people want to hang, get your tasks done, keep it cute. Like let's keep the sleep hygiene going. It just takes like a lot of force to like summon this in me. Like I have to really hit a wall to be like, oh damn, it's timeout mode. And last weekend was that because I was just coming off a concert, a sound bath, a lunch, a bike ride, a show, a bar. I was performing in a concert and then had a little kiki after and then went out and I was like depleted, but like so full at the same time. And then I realized that the swing was dangerously close to going over the top of the bar. So I had to pull myself back in. And I keep just like questioning like why I do this. And the only conclusion that I've come to is that I really love myself. Like I feel like in some ways it's self-destructive or like self-harm to just not give myself sleep and not rest. It just doesn't feel, I felt like sickly by the end of it, you know? So it's like, why am I treating myself like that? Do I not love myself? But I'm like, no, I love myself. Like self-deprecation exists within me, but I've been slowly trying to like expel the self-loathing because it's just very masturbatory and it's not actually serving me and serving the people around me. Like it's not a freeing way to be. So I love myself, but I'm like, I've realized I love myself, but I don't respect myself. And that was only reinforced when I went to Alaska for my birthday. We'll get into that a little bit later. But on that trip, it was me and 4 of my dear friends from different times in my life. It just worked out that the people that grouped up for this was one friend from high school, one friend from college, one friend from Seattle, and one friend from my political project that I met last year. And so it felt like people from all these varying districts of my life. And that was so amazing to see that I could grow and change so much. And yet the people that I met in each of those stages of my life could get along so well and could build this sense of knowing. And one commonality that I was shocked by was that every night, nobody wanted to go to bed. We all wanted to stay and talk until 4 a.m. Like nobody ever wanted to dismiss themselves. Everyone was so engrossed in spending that time. And usually when I put together a group trip or I go on a group trip, it'll be me and maybe one other person that wants to stay up late, but it's not everybody. And on this trip, I was like, somehow, and that's who I knew I needed to take to Alaska in the winter, was people that like know how to have an exceptionally good time, so much so that you can't restrict yourself. But I was like, oh, I was talking about this phenomenon of like loving yourself but not respecting yourself with them, because I'm like, why do we even do this to each other? Like, I care about you guys so much. Like, if any one of you were like, hey, I need to go to bed, we have to stop, I'd be like, totally. Like, anytime one of my friends is like, I gotta go to bed, I'm like, respect that so much. I'm never like, oh my God, that fucking asshole, you know? But then on my side, I'm like, I clearly don't respect myself that much because I won't take myself to bed. And then there's this cycle in my head that's like, oh, well, you're just being hard on yourself. It's actually fine. But I'm like, no, I have reached a point where I know when I'm being a little self-destructive. and that I need to be a little bit more careful. I'm very familiar with all the songs and all the canon about like loving yourself more, but I'm like, what if I really love like who I am? Like I love who I am, but somehow I don't have respect for my body, mind, spirit, what have you. Or like maybe respect is something we talk a lot about interpersonally, like respecting each other, but self-respect is like where I'm struggling. I could probably opine about this for 90 minutes itself, but I think I've gotten the sincerity of this through and we can move on. And I just realized I've had my headphone cable wrapped around my neck like a little Parisian scarf, which is actually so fitting because I have been wearing scarves again. I had sort of a falling out with scarves. I had so many scarves in high school. That was like one of my most signature or like signifying accessories. I had so many infinity scarves and like patterned scarves. And that was like one of my first YouTube videos was like different ways to style your scarves. And my mom recently asked me if I could style one for her in one of those cool ways. And I couldn't remember them. And I was like, damn, I am aging. I am aging out of my own memory. But you know what's beautiful is I could easily just go watch that. I could go watch that YouTube video and I could learn from myself. How beautiful to learn from your like 14, 15-year-old self. But I think because scarves were so deeply high school to me, I departed from that being a part of my sense of style. But then recently, living in Seattle, it is just so useful to have something you can throw on and suddenly you feel like 10 degrees warmer if it's a good scarf. And every time I wear a scarf, I feel a little swaggier. Like I feel like I am referencing somebody somewhere. It's accomplishing something. It gives your outfit some movement. If you have half of it flying behind you, like, isn't that a little bit fun? And I've really been thinking about getting your swag up. There's so much. It's funny because I asked you guys what swag means to you. I asked you who in your life has swag, what gives them swag, etc. And some people were like, this term is so like raw XD. Like this term is so loaded. But I think swag has had a revival now that we've been talking about like T-boy swag. I just saw somebody on Twitter say twink swag. And I'm like, oh, there's been niches carved of different types of swag. And basically, I just want to get my swag up in 2025. It's very simple. I want to respect myself more and I want to be swaggier. And maybe swag is self-respect. And literally, probably at least 30 to 40, 50% of you in your responses about the people in your life that had swag mention some form of that. Like mention someone who is just really self-assured and like, carries himself with ease and just has this like swag to me is like casual elegance, like, and not elegance in, I don't know why elegance has such a feminine tone to it, but just the elegance of like really having a point of view. And to me, swag is like so abstract. It's like so esoteric. It's like, how does someone work on the craft of swag? So it's a new area of study for me because I'm just like, I don't know if you can teach it. I don't know if it is an academic discipline or if it's an aura. It's something prehistoric. Maybe it's something that exists only in, miasma. I don't understand quite how swag comes to be. But isn't that why it's so beautiful to have a forum where I can send out surveys and get responses from strangers and run my own little statistician's office hours here? I could have been such a good PhD student if I cared about one thing deeply enough, but unfortunately for the ivory tower, but fortunately for me, it's like I'm too frenetic and fractured and scattered with my interests to like narrow the scope that much. So then I get to do my little podcast science. I'm a podcast scientist, basically. Essentially, I think there are pockets of swag in my life. I think I at moments will have a quiet swag about me, and not quiet in that I'm quiet, quiet in that it's not very loud. It doesn't have a full volume of voice yet. Like my swag is just like maybe just a whisper, if that. The vocal cords are developing. Like I think maybe swag signals like security. And I wonder if that's misleading most of the time. Because your answers, when I read them, well, maybe I'll just read them now. Breaking form a bit to deviate here. But the question I asked in this month's Rev survey, which red alert, I am in stage 2 of deactivating my Cathrow Instagram, which means that I'm no longer posting on my stories. So if you were used to getting the survey link for this Revelatorium questionnaire on my Instagram story, please follow Revelatorium on Instagram because I'll still post it there. And we can talk about Instagram strategy another time because maybe at least one episode needs to take a break from it. But and honestly, I just feel like I've said my piece for now. But yeah, follow Revelatorium or subscribe to the YouTube channel. On the posts, the community posts of my Revelatorium YouTube channel is where I'll post it. I'll also repost it onto my Cather Out community posts part of the page because they keep changing the name for it. It's just called posts now. And then I'll also put it on my Revelatorium Instagram story. So 3 places you can get it. Anyway, I asked this time, if I asked you to name someone in your life that has a lot of swag, who comes to mind? What is swaggy about them? James, whose pronouns are ha, him. And I don't know if you were trying to write he and that's a typo, but I love the idea of being like, my pronouns are ha, him. Like, ha? What's up with ha? You're like, did you see Ha walk in? Like, there's kind of some swag to that. I'm kind of appreciating that. Anyway, James is 20 and is writing in from a parking lot waiting for his mom to come out of the store. And he said to the question of who has swag, Maddie or Emily. They both have amazing style. They tend to get asked if my fits look good, but they also have the swag to say it is how it is. They will walk into any room or conversation with the ability to just control it. It's so cool and swaggy. Similarly, Tanya, who's 34 in Greece, said, seemingly effortless, calm, but strong energy is what makes swag. Entering a room and making it theirs. My hip hop teacher had that vibe for sure. So like a theme was developing. Sienna, who's 18, writing in from bed, as always, said, a peer or a friend of mine, Jeremiah, everyone I know seems to just be in awe of his natural swag. I think that's the key piece here. He doesn't not seem to do anything that isn't truly authentic to him. A lot of times I hear they're cool because they don't try type of thing. I don't think that's quite what gives someone swag. I think it's a little more rooted in a person being a clear display of their values and personality, which Jeremiah so is. And what I really appreciate about, well, I would say listeners, but definitely the writers. This podcast has listeners, and then there gets to be one day, hopefully, where you feel compelled to write in. And, you know, there was a couple first-time write-ins. There's a couple first-time write-ins every time. And it's very sweet. Whatever it took to get you over the brink, I would love to know. Anyway, people are really going one step deeper beneath the like effortless cool. It's like, yes, it comes across that way, but what is it really? Because what does that even mean? To Abby, who's 25, writing in from her home office desk covered in yarn from the crochet project I'm doing instead of working, said to her, who has swag, my friend Tyler. He's got a really secure yet flexible grip on his masculinity, and I associate swag and swagger with an interplay of suave, unbothered authenticity that for some reason leans masculine in my mind. Not sure why that's the case, perhaps my own internalized misogyny to unpack, but Tyler genuinely gives no fucks in a way that invites others to do the same and own whatever they want to own on that particular occasion. That's pretty swaggy to me. This really like responds to my current theory of swag, basically. Like the person that like is the swaggiest person in the ether, in my ether right now, is Honey Pluton, who I do not personally know. We of course have mutuals because that's just how the world works. But he on his podcast and his comedy really just delivers on what's key to him. Like, my friend saw his stand-up in New York and said he's very singular. I appreciate that he's just so authentic. He's sort of someone that I would say is farm to table. Like, the ideas just go straight from his brain to the world. He's not filtering too much. And there's swag to that because it does feel like security. It's like security to know that like your ideas matter, that you don't need to mince your words. But it's interesting because I feel like swag sometimes comes across without even speaking. And it's like, is the genesis of the swag that you're the type of person who says it's on your mind and like carries yourself with a sense of like maybe self-respect or integrity? I don't know. I wouldn't equate integrity with swag, actually. I'm not going to do that. Because a lot of these weren't about just like character. It was about almost more... Well, I actually do appreciate that Abby's response brought in the gendered aspect to it, because swag does feel like a gender. Like, there's like a gender to it. It's like the way you carry yourself. It's like the way, that's like what you inhabit. Your swag gendered. And I think anyone that had swag, that would be very esteemed. It's like not everyone can be swag gendered, you know? Tori, who's 21, in their childhood turned college bedroom in Atlanta, Georgia, said, "My coworker Max is an incredibly swaggy individual. They're big into skateboarding, always wears the funkiest outfits, and has a great attitude that always lifts everyone's spirits. I swear they can strike up a conversation with anyone about anything. Plus, they're a great community organizer that is arguably the swaggiest trait someone can have." When someone is a skilled organizer, it is fucking swaggy for sure. And so it's just sort of like this mix. It is sort of like an aura. It is sort of like a gender where it's like, clearly it's about someone's persona and like their charm, but it's also about clearly the way they dress. But it's like, are they dressing on the outside because of the swag that's being produced on the inside? I don't know. I think this person's name is Edelin or Adelin. It's like Madeline, but instead of an M, it's an E. And that's a beautiful name. And she's writing in from the Netherlands and is 22. And they said, "My friend is really fucking cool. They're a true punk and really creative and resourceful. I've never and will never meet anyone like them. I love them dearly." And I just had to read that because I was like, I was reading that on the couch earlier and I was like, oh, literally love hearing people love on their friends. I'm like, that is such a darling thing to do. Like, that is what I want to hear. I don't want to hear someone shitting on their friend as a form of love. I just don't. You know? And that's my prerogative, is not to surround myself with people like that. You know? Those just aren't my people. Point blank. We can do a little bit of it, but I like to eliminate as much negging as possible. Please do not neg me. I just don't have the time. I really don't need it. It's not how you're going to gain favor with me. I don't know who I'm talking to right now. I'm like, as if there's someone who was like planning on negging me and then just watched this episode and was like, actually, never mind. I'm not going to do that anymore. Chelsea, who's 35 in the PNW, said, "The only person that comes to mind is an old drug dealer I used to know. Haha. The way he layered different patterns and colors was unmatched, but somehow worked. And of course, given his career, he would just come and go from social events as he pleased. The aura of OMG, who is that, was just so swaggy." And I love this because I was a big fan of the show High Maintenance on HBO, which is about a weed dealer in New York. And he, I wouldn't say was swaggy. Like, I wouldn't say he was swaggy, but now that you mention it, as your career being coming and going from different social events that you're not like explicitly a part of is really swaggy. Like, I would really love to just like that social science right there is just like showing up to all those different events and like getting a pulse on it. And that's why I liked High Maintenance, is because it took you to all those spaces and all those parties and all those situations in which someone would need a drug. And sometimes it wasn't a party, you know, sometimes it was like someone experiencing grief or something, you know? And so it's like, there's so many different venues for that. And it was just such a creative format for a show. And I miss it. Like, I wish I got to see more episodes of it. But it's interesting to hear that like, it's always multiple things. It feels like it's like the person is like this and then they interact with people like this and their style is like this. And I'm like, those all seem linked. Like, it seems like it's a trifold type of thing. And I'm like, have there been academic papers written on swag? Because I'm trying to name something that feels so unnameable. Loved this one from Anna, who's writing in from her flat in Budapest/Hungary. She said, I had to think hard about this, and every example I could think of was lesbian acquaintances. They have these swag. They have a badass aura, and the vibe is as if nothing mainstream or mundane could touch them. And it's very confusing, as I know that they're humans too and are vulnerable. And yeah, while I have a crush on every single one of them, and I just can't really tell what's swag about them in a more nuanced way, I'm very interested in what others have to say about this. And I just found this so endearing. I'm like, this reads like something I would have jotted down in 7th grade. Like, just so sweet. So yeah, I don't really know where I'm at on the swag spectrum yet. Something that I have been musing on as well, though, that I do feel very secure about is that I am amusing. I was at a table eating lunch with some acquaintances, and I have not talked at length with these fellows, but maybe touch and go moments amounting to no more than 15 to 25 minutes, cumulatively summing up to no more than like an hour, really, of hang time. Anyway, so these people have known me for cumulatively an hour and over a series of weeks. And one of them was just like, I bet you're the life of the party. And I could have been bashful and self-deprecating and just be like, oh, no, not me. But I've gotten to a point where I'm like, I know I'm amusing. Like, I would have to be amusing for people to want to watch me on here, for people to want to watch me on stage, for people to want to hang out with me. Like, I know that I can amuse people. I know that I have entertainment value. That's something socially I can give to the world as a gift. It's a craft. I love to tell stories. I had a couple birthday office hours this year because originally, like I said, I went to Alaska for my birthday, and usually that's all I do for my birthday. I just despise having winter birthday. I'm like, I'm going to get the hell out of Dodge. And last year I went to Oaxaca. The year before that I went to LA. And I don't usually do anything in Seattle, but I just felt compelled to because, first of all, we need an excuse to party in the winter, and I don't want to deprive my dear friends of that. And second of all, because I had a beloved sweetheart coming to visit me, and I was like, I want you to meet all my people. And what's the most effective way to do that? To have all the people come here to you. And so I had this little hang in my apartment for one of my birthday nights, and it was so cherished. And I don't even really feel like I want to share all the details. I just wanted to say that, like, part of the night was just me basically in this chair storytelling for 2 hours. And it was so fun. And I was like, I'm so glad that I somehow I know exactly how. I pulled at the threads of my life until I had a 2-hour long story, like something that I wouldn't even say it happened to me. I was making it happen. But anyway, I have in my back pocket a 2-hour story, and that could be so useful. Think about if our systems collapse. Think about if we no longer have servers. We no longer have cell phone service. Think about if, we're off the grid suddenly. Boom, I'm spinning yarns. I'm regaling you with tales. So valuable. Literally ancient technology, storytelling. So anyway, I kind of had this little like mini panic because I was like, okay, am I likable? Or do people just find me amusing? Because maybe those seem on the same plane, but they don't feel that way to me. Like, liking someone is appreciating their character or, admiring something about them or learning about them, and coming to like them. Finding someone amusing is like, maybe you don't really even have to respect them all that much to find them amusing. You don't have to be like, this is really my person. I love them. I like them. They could just be amusing. Like, they could just bring you laughter or bring you a little bit of like cartoonishness, clownery, whatever, that could give your life a little bit more sparkle. And those seem distinct to me. Is it that important that I get to the bottom of it? No. because I'll never get to the bottom of it. There is no floor on this question. I will never know how other people perceive me. It's a futile quest, a fool's errand. It's like, you'll never fully know that. But I'll say it's also brought up in me that like, I like to surround myself with people who are amusing. Like, I do value that because I like to have a good time, and I like not having to depend on external circumstances to have a good time. Like, I think a lot of people are trying to pick the right event, the right venue, the right bar that's going to make the night fun. But I'm like, if you're with amusing people, they will find a way. Like, being amusing or amusement is creativity. Going to an amusement park allows you to interact with the world in a very different way than you usually do. Like, usually you're not going on rides that are like producing endorphins, but I'm like, maybe that's why I'm swinging, because it's the closest thing you can do to sort of like intervene in your life and give yourself a little bit of amusement. Like, I love amusement. And on Sims, one of the traits you could give your character, your sim, was easily amused. And I'm like, I've set myself up in a really good spot if I'm easily amused and I surround myself with people that are very amusing. I'm like, that's an amusement park in itself. You know, how can I make my life an amusement park? Not in the way that I want to be like only having fun. It's like, obviously you can't just live in Disneyland. Struggle exists. But in the way that like you need to find ways to give yourself psycho-spiritual reprieve, and amusement can do that. But then bringing it all the way back around, untying the swing, maybe that's why I have such a push and a pull, a restriction and a binging with like my social life, is that I'm really seeking amusement. Like, I'm seeking it to extents that mean I'm depriving myself of like my bottom. I recently tweeted, and I think I put it on my Revelatorium Instagram story, but didn't articulate any of it. And someone did ask me, like, I hope that you're going to talk about this on the next episode. And I wasn't originally going to, but now that it's come up, let's talk about it. I tweeted this like picture of the Maslow's hierarchy of needs chart, that like pyramid at the bottom is like, you know, food, shelter, water. One level up from that is security and safety. And then one level up from that is belongingness and love needs, intimate relationships, friends, then esteem, prestige, feeling of accomplishment. Then at the top, self-actualization, actualizing one's full potential, including creative activities. And I edited the photo because I felt like my Maslow's hierarchy was like a Christmas tree. Like, you know, those like a stencil of a Christmas tree, like an outline drawing of a Christmas tree, how it'll be like the triangle and then just like the little stump. The little stump is my physiological needs and my safety needs. So like food, water, warmth, rest, security, safety. I will thin those out if it means I get to spend more time at the top of the pyramid. But that's not how the pyramid works. Like, the reason, and not even to say that I fully like endorse this pyramid, right? I don't know. I've actually never challenged it before. I would love to see if there are any competing theories of our needs. Are our needs hierarchical? Because I'm sure anarchists would disagree with that. I'd love to know if an anarchist has redesigned this. And maybe that's something for the comment section, getting back to interactivity. Okay, so I will basically have my self-actualization, my esteem, and my belongingness teetering like Jenga on one little block, you know? And that's not a secure foundation for my life. So now I feel like the timeout is me fanning those base layers back out, because they were getting so thin. It was like, oh, this is going to fall over. Like, I'm going to crash out. All that is to say, amusement is very powerful. I'm very glad that I'm an amusing person. I would never want to like erase that side of myself, even if it's randomly maladaptive and coming from benign neglect. Whatever. Actually, I am good with that. Something I'm chewing on. I've also been chewing on a beautiful nexus point that I've been getting to in my friendships here, where at some point in getting to know somebody, that beautiful, luxurious process of getting to know somebody, I will reach a point where we'll usually while we're laughing, or like not always though, I'll reach a moment where I realize how we would have been as kids together. I think I have like just enough space from like my youth And maybe in 30 years, I'll still think that being 29 is my youth. But I think I have enough space from my youth to find it charming to imagine like how my adult friendships would like configure in my childhood. Like one of my friends, I realized we would have so been in like a leadership seminar together. Like that's where we would have met if we went to the same high school. Another one of my friends, I'm like, we would have been in third grade on the playground together. Like I'm not talking about a friend you have play dates with. It's like we would have been on the playground specifically together. Like that's where we would have found comprehension of each other. I've been in a concert band for the past like 6 months, and it's been really rejuvenating to find one of my existing friendships from before concert band in that setting, because I'm like, oh, now I get to actualize that. I get to actualize, oh, this would have been like this when we were in school, because concert band feels like an extension of my youth. Like it feels like, oh, this is something that I used to do and I'm coming back to it. So it feels like I'm picking up where I left off, and I'm entering into what would have been like to be in band class with one of my friends. And it's been so like grounding, and that's like a beautiful form of intimacy. Like I wish I could know all my adult friends when they were kids. Like I wish I got to know them as a kid. That's how much I love my people. And I think maybe some of my desire to see my current friendships through that lens is like, we haven't known each other that long. Like these are all people that I've met within the last 2 years. And I'm like wondering what it would be like to know them for that long, to know someone at age 8 that you still know at age 28, like 20 years. Like I want to know what it would be like to be friends with these people in 20 years. And like, it'll be so beautiful when I'm in my 40s and I can be like, oh, I remember being in our 20s together. You know, like we were, you know, like I want that for myself. I really do want long-term relationships. And I also recognize how much like work and commitment and like care goes into that. It's not like an accident when but sometimes it does feel like a beautiful accident actually. But like on a surface, sometimes a long-term relationship seems like an accident. But then if I were to look at like how we still know each other, it's clear that it's like, oh, we're putting in the work to see each other. Like we're spending money and we're booking trips to like keep this up for my friends, that because I didn't grow up in Seattle, it's like I don't have any friendships here that are more than a few years old, that are more than the amount of time I've lived here. So it's like for me to keep up with long-term friendships means that like I am actually like, it's resisting something, you know, the natural force of like just spending time with people that you're in close physical proximity with. Anyway, I've been thinking about a lot of like that tending to that maintenance or that renewal that goes into a relationship, because I was talking to someone about not just your relationship to people, but your relationship to the place that you live. And I love Seattle. I feel I truly belong here. I feel like this was always meant for me, and I just needed to like basically find it for myself. And it actually feels very transcendent to be here. Like it's almost supernatural, the forces, the astrocartographical forces at work. And I hadn't been worried about my relationship to this place until I was talking to someone who's been living here for 10 years now. And they were like, I'm starting to feel of two minds about it. Like there's still those things that you at once recognized and really clung to and really felt supported by. And then there's a lot of things that you're like, I don't appreciate this. I don't agree with this. I don't like this. And right now I still feel like smitten, and I want to hold on to that. And I remember one time I was in Montana and I was talking to someone that had lived there maybe 15, maybe 10 years, maybe 20 years. And I was asking her, I was like, does this ever get old? Like these views of these canyons and these rivers and the mountains and the fields, like it's just such a grand, refreshing place to be. And she was like, no, it never gets old. You know, there aren't that many roads in Montana. So it's like you're driving down the same roads all the time. But it's like she had said it never got old. And I was like, is that because Montana is that like just mystifyingly beautiful? Or is that because of your tending of your relationship to that place? Like, is there some role that I have in keeping this love affair with Seattle alive? Like, if I really am looking at it like giving, you know, my residents here like a personhood, because I'm like, I don't want to have to move. I really don't want to have to leave this place. Obviously, I'm open to leaving if that comes up in my life and I want to do that. But like, I don't want to leave because I'm just like fed up, you know? Like, I didn't leave the Bay Area because I was like fed up. I left the Bay Area because I was like, I very much could have a life here, but I want to try this thing that's been calling me, you know? And so I don't want to get to a point. It's kind of similar to like, I think there's a point in any disillusionment of any relationship, especially with people, where if you let it drag out too long, it might get to a point of like actual, you know, it's rusted over and then you can't even continue the relationship in any form. And it's just like, you have to be done with it. Whereas it's like, oh, I want to be, if you can manage to end things a little prematurely, you might be able to salvage some form of working relationship out of that. And so I want to take stock of like when I feel those pangs of maybe being a little more at odds with my time here. And certainly I'm reading the slog every day for the local people. I'm reading that. And I'm seeing all the corrupt shit that's going on for sure. So when I say that like I love Seattle and I love living here, I don't mean like I love the city government and the infrastructure and the companies here. Like I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about like, I don't know, however much a city can have a personality or a spirit, it definitely has a beauty to it for sure. Like just looking out to the Salish Sea, the Olympic Mountains behind it is one of the most gorgeous things you can set your eyes on. And like, I believe that so firmly. It's just like so obvious to me that I love it here, you know? And I'm just like, I don't want to get to a point in 10 years where I'm just wanting to acknowledge that like, it might not be so easy for me forever to feel this strongly, this positively. And that I want to try to like cultivate some newness and some freshness in the relationship and not get too stuck in my ways. Okay, I'm going to save a few of these revelations and questions that I asked you for next month and see if I can draw upon them then, because I want to continue on to taking and leaving. What am I taking from these past 30 days or so into the at least next 30 days? Collaging journal covers. It's funny how much change or growth can happen. I really feel like I'm going through a growth spurt right now because it's crazy because most times within a month, if I write like a revelation or something for taking and leaving down, let's call it February 1st, by the time I'm recording in late February, early March, I'm very much still interested in talking about that thing. And it's very much still on my mind. But I'm like, when did I write collaging journal covers? Because I'm like, that feels like eons ago, but it must have been sometime in the last like maybe 45 days. And it's crazy that like I've already sort of eclipsed that. And I'm like, I don't really know where that came from. And that's kind of how I feel about those other two revelations and questions I asked you guys is I'm like, wow, I don't actually feel those coming up for me so much more. Like I want this podcast to be a place of just like things I am spilling. I'm brimming with these revelations that just like need to come out. And if something needs to retreat, then it'll retreat. But I did in February start a new journal. I go through about one composition notebook every 3 months, and those are really cheap. You can find them at did I find it at a thrift store? No, I needed a new journal, and I went to the thrift store and I found one for like $1. But the cover was really ugly. And so I was like, oh, usually that would turn me off. But I was like, now with my newly discovered tool of collaging, anything can be made pretty again and aesthetically desirable. And I don't want to downplay how valuable it can be to make things actually attractive in your life. Like if you want to journal more, like make it more attractive to yourself, like make it sexier, make it swaggier. Like that's actually important. And so I collaged the cover of this for February. And so I probably won't need to, and then I ended up collaging out another one for like May, basically. And I want to take that practice forward with me because I used to spend so much money on moleskins just because I thought that they were like a little more elegant. But now I'm like, oh, I can create my own bespoke journal that correlates to my own visions. So there's that. I'm also taking the phrase cutting my teeth. I don't remember if I used this last episode, but I've just really doubled down on not feeling ashamed of my ineptitudes or like my ignorance. If it's like, oh, I'm just cutting my teeth, and like, you can cut your teeth on something at any age. It does not have to be as a toddler. Like, you can be a toddler at any age, basically. And I think as I grow older, I recognize that maturity is not linked chronologically. Wisdom is not just like automatic. And it becomes more and more clear to me as I meet people who's got some sharp incisors, you know, like who has been cutting their teeth, who has been shaping themselves through their experience in the world. I'm like, who has been finding their own version of the revelatorium? Like, who has been trying to find answers, seeking truth? And in the leaving category, I got nothing. For the first time in revelatorium history, I did not identify something that fit neatly there. So let me get ideas from you all on what you're leaving behind from this past month. Humane Connection, who's 24, writing in from her bed after sleeping in because for most of the night I had too little space between my partner and a cat. The best inconvenience to have. And she's leaving her job. They have been mistreating and scamming me as an international employee for this whole year. So I made a zine about how badly they're treating people, and I am planning to give it to every person in the department before I leave. Rise up. And I'm reading this because I am inspired. I've never heard of this. This is so creative and so compelling and is good politic. Like, that is good politic. It's so important to let people know what's going on at the place that they work at, and to agitate people to be like, we don't need to treat each other like this, or we don't need to be treated like this. Let them know. Let them know popular education, zines are a way of being. And if you're still listening right now and you're amused by this, I would like to invite you. I'd like to invite you to join book club. This month, we are going to be reading a very radical zine that really confronts a lot. Period. That's all I'm going to say. Anyway, we're reading a zine. So it's like 17 pages, and I'm really fucking excited to talk about it. So if you want to join book club, it's $10 a month. The zine is called Kill the Couple in Your Head. You can just access it for free at the Anarchist Library. So if you want to just read it and not pay the $10 and not come to book club, for sure. $10 just seems to be the exact right monetary threshold. That means that the people that come through really want to be there, and it's a very intentional space. And like, last month was just so good. Thank you to everyone that came out to that one. It's usually like 8 to 12 of us, so you get time to speak and like really reveal what you thought about the reading. So if you read the zine that I'm going to link and you like it, come through. What are people taking? Becca, who's 25, writing in from my couch wrapped in a blanket with the last of the day's sunlight in the window. That sounds very familiar to me and very beloved. And she is taking karaoke. I finally tried it for the first time, and I think my life will be forever changed. And I have a regular karaoke practice now because one of the open mics I do has a karaoke like night at the same place right after, or in fact, it kind of starts during the end of our comedy night, so you can hear people's music coming through the wall. It's like so funny. And so I have the exhilarating experience of doing a 3-minute set and then doing a 3-minute song. So I get to have like the fantasy of being a comedian and a musician in one night. Very powerful for my creative spirit. And because I have a weekly song, I almost treat it like revelatorium in a way, where it's like a part of my hygiene to be like, what is the song that is literally on my heart this week? And whenever I'm with people at that karaoke night that don't want to sing, I'm like, you don't have a song on your heart? Like, there's not something that you need to say. I know that people have different relationships to music. I'm like, I have a speaker in every room of my house. I love to listen to music. I feel like there's a song that I am sort of hooked on every week. Right now it's Relationships by Haim. Let's fucking go. But like, that's too new of a song to be at karaoke. So I'll usually find a song that is on my karaoke playlist, or is just like something that they would have in their discography that corresponds to what I'm dealing with that week, or like something I need to say, or like something that I know is just going to set me right. I did Slow Burn this past week, and oh my God, I've never done that song at karaoke because I always thought it was too much of a downer. And I like to do songs that really get people up, but people really appreciated it. And I was like, oh, let me do that. Let me do that. So I'm glad that you recognize that too. The girl with the fancy ass couch who's 28 in Seattle said she is taking being sexy as fuck. And I just adore that. It's literally so fun being sexy. I was so sexy on my birthday, and I literally forgot I could be that sexy, and everyone was like, whoa. And I was like, yep. Just got to remind people. I have to remind people. Humane Connection is taking watching Severance to remind myself to treat my inner person as a person with feelings instead of a slave to my ego. And this was a trip to read because I'd never, for those that are watching Severance and understand what an inner, what an innie and what an outie is, like I've never interpreted it as like outside of the sci-fi world of being able to sever yourself, like thinking about, yeah, like self-respect as like the person inside of me has feelings and is not just there to like fulfill my every wish and desire. Like I would love it if my body were more powerful and only needed 3 hours of sleep, but that's just not the reality of the situation. And I can't keep treating it like it's just in service of my whims and my amusements. It's like my body needs to be attended to. Seawave, who's 24, writing in from rainy, gloomy, but on the verge of spring, Halifax, Nova Scotia, said she is taking my weekly Sunday summaries where my long-distance besties and I share pics and stories from the week to keep in touch. And actually, one of the revelations I omitted was about how to share photos and videos with my loved ones, because coming back from my birthday week, I had a birthday week this year. Usually I don't do that. I had a birthday week this year, and I had all these beautiful photos from Alaska. I saw the Northern Lights so up close and dramatically, and they were dancing, and it was just like, I've never experienced that sort of like awe before. It was a really punctuated moment of my life, and I want to share that with people. And I found myself just like pulling out my phone at the bar, pulling out my phone at lunch, or pulling out my phone on the couch next to them and like showing them those videos. But I'm like, is there a more enriching way to do that? Like, how do I, it feels important to me to like share photos. And I've been investigating that desire because I'm like, where does that come from? It's like, why do I want more people to see the Northern Lights than just myself and the friends that I was with? Like, shouldn't that be enough that I shared those 4 or 5 days in Alaska with 4 of my beloved friends? But I'm like, somehow, I worry that it's like selfish almost, or like just like greedy, where I'm just like, I want more. Like, I just worry that it's coming from this like growth imperative that our economy operates under. And I'm like, I don't want the economy of like my own personal sharing to be under a growth imperative. But also I'm like, maybe it's not bad at all. There's a lot of like moralizing that I do of my own ways of being. That's like definitely one of the revelatorium rooms, is like, oh, is this harmful, helpful? And it's funny because I was doing this kind of hemming and hawing out loud during one of my birthday office hours events, because I was like, oh, such a good idea, by the way. It came out of just like the convention of my week being that the only 2 nights I had to celebrate my birthday in Seattle were a Tuesday and a Wednesday, because I was leaving for Alaska on a Thursday. And those were the 2 nights that my friend was visiting, and I wanted them to meet everybody. So I was like, oh, I guess I have to host something on a Tuesday and a Wednesday. But a friend of a friend had done his birthday on a Monday, like 2 weeks before. So I was like, oh, you can do a weeknight birthday. It's not very common, but you can do it. And so I had a little hang at my house, and then I did a little natural wine bar moment the next night. And while my friends were over, I was hemming and hawing about this, and 2 of my friends were just like, why does it have to be one or the other? Like, why does it have to be harmful or helpful? Why does it have to be good or bad? And like, I'm like, love my therapized ass friends for pointing out my cognitive distortions. Basically, this whole podcast is like, how is my brain distorted as fuck? Like, how am I cognitively distorted? Because I am. But also, damn, if that's not my Mercury in Aquarius, like, I just think it's fun to be heady and like investigate. And it's very entertaining and amusing to me, honestly, to like think about these things. I'm like, oh, I don't need to scroll on Instagram to generate ideas in my head. I got that all on my own. I'm very gifted at it, in fact. If anyone needs some ideas, well, that's why you're here, probably. You want some ideas, and I'm peddling them. Sienna, who's 18, in bed as always, is taking her confidence and vulnerability, asked my best friend of 4 years to be my girlfriend this week, and my risk-taking was so rewarded with positivity. I've had an amazing week of sleepovers and love-struck convos, and I was just like so pleased to read this. I'm like, that's such a beautiful... I've never had something quite like that, where you're best friends with someone for 4 years and then it bubbles over. And I've always just wondered, like, did you always have a little inkling? Because the longest I've been friends with somebody before, you know, I basically either revealed my feelings or things progressed was that, well, maybe 4 months. Like, maybe. And I think part of me would probably just like rationalize in my head that if we've been friends for 4 years, wouldn't it have already happened by now if it were meant to happen? But you just proved that it was worth it. And we'll end with Tanya, who's 34 in Greece, who said she's taking the feelings from the biggest protest my country has ever seen as we demanded justice for the Tempe railway crash 2 years ago. And I'm including this because it revealed my myopia and my imperial ignorance. When you live in the US, you really have to go out of your way to learn about globally what's happening. And of course, there's no way to know about every single country's like local, regional, you know, national politics, but I didn't know about this event. And I just looked into it, and the Tempe train crash was basically a train derailment that killed 57, injured 81, heavily injured 81, and lightly injured 99 people. And then the workers from the train went on strike to protest the dangerous conditions related to the crash. You know, it's basically mismanagement and negligence, and just, you can read about it for yourself if you're curious. But then I looked, and that happened in February 2023. I never heard about it. And then, which I in some ways I feel like a product of the internet is feeling entitled to like hear about things. I'm like, I feel like I should have heard about that. It's like, for the amount of time I'm spending on my phone every day, it's like, damn, I'm not hearing about big things like this, or this seems like would be big in my world. But on February 28th, 2025, which is my birthday, 2 years after the accident, hundreds of thousands of citizens, mostly young people, demonstrated in more than 262 cities and villages in Greece and abroad, calling for justice and denouncing any cover-up. And I'm like, that is really powerful. Maria Coristiano, president of the Tempe 2023 Victims Association, addressed the murderers of our children, saying in her speech at Syntagma Square, "You insulted and treated our dead with contempt. The bodies and bones of our children remain buried in secret places. You have committed the ultimate hubris, and you will face nemesis through the people's pulse." I'm like, damn. No, I would never want to be cursed by a Greek person like this. Like, this is, what a powerful phrase. I'm like, and we do not speak like that in the US. We don't use hubris and nemesis in our protest rally speeches. But how truly deplorable and devastating. So sending solidarity to Tanya and this struggle of the Greek people. And I think that's where I'll end it. This one got a little twisted. It got a little wrung out, it feels like. And I'm very excited to see what comes of episode 28. It's as much as this, it's like, this podcast is as much a surprise for me as it is anyone else. Like, I have no idea next month what I'll be talking about. You know, what is going to come up in the next 30 days for you and me both. No point in even pontificating about it. Okay. Thank you so much for listening. I'll see you all next time. And Kat, they're out.